joining us from the Inquirer. I can't wait to talk some ball with this man. He does such a great job. Make sure you read him. Make sure you follow him on all social media. Keith Pompey joins the program. Keith,
What's good, man? How you doing?
man, that game, I can't, I can't, I'm like half speechless about it because the way it began, right? The way the zone just messed with them and then how they closed it. I thought it would be different this playoff series, this season. And Keith, let's look at it from the big picture first. Like they closed it. Like that was different. The way they closed the game last night was completely different, especially how it started.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy because that was the first time that they came back from a huge deficit like that at the half. You know what I mean? So that was crazy. Initially, I was looking at it, man. I'm saying to myself, I thought this team was tougher. Like I thought like they got guys
Yes.
who could play and play in the like in the moment, and they looked a little soft in the first half, and the moment looked too big for some of the new guys, right? And then you look at Nico Batum, and he had that look, and it's like, okay, I thought he was a role player. You know what I mean? He was draining threes. So, to me, it was a tough victory, but it was a great victory for them to be able to overcome that and play the way they did. Because the bench campaign, he only played like 3 minutes, but he came in and hit a huge three. I mean, Buddy Hill shot 1 for 5 for 3, but he had 6 assists. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So,
Yes. He drove the lane.
Paul, yeah, drove the. He did what he had to do. So, to me, it was a tough to watch in the first half, but in the second half, I kind of like said, okay, guys are stepping up. Not all of them, but some of the new
Now we'll
dudes
talk
stepped
about we'll talk about it.
up.
But you know what? I had the same exact take on this thing, which is they stepped up because I thought the same thing. Like they look scared, right? They look, and all of a sudden there's Jimmy, right? Jimmy
Yeah,
playing gangster, and they're gonna wilt like to Jimmy. Right? Jimmy's dictating, and I'm going,
yeah.
oh my god, not again! This again with this? You knew that they were gonna play this way, right? And all I kept thinking about it. But this is where I got to give the big fella a ton of credit, right? Because he was grabbing his shorts. You can see he was out of rhythm, out of sorts. He couldn't get to his spots, right? Early. But he didn't quit. He didn't McMope it, right? The whole game. He came out in the last 4 minutes. He was the beast, man. He closed.
Yeah, I mean those threes that he hit were huge. Those shots, it was aggressiveness. It got to a point where sometimes you say you gotta a person's character is shown and their heart is shown like in the biggest moments. And that was one of those moments. Now I get it. You can score 70 points against the second worst team in the league. I mean, you can beat up on the Charlotte Hornets. But for when you have a messed up knee and we all see it, you can't move. And when your team needed you down the stretch, and you come through the way he did, that was big of Joel. I mean, think about it. He shot 3 for 12 through the first 3 quarters, and then in the fourth quarter, he stepped up and drained those shots and shot. I think he shot 4 for 5, I believe, but he played well down in the stretch. He played extremely well.
By the way, Shams just reported Jimmy has
Yeah.
an MCL injury and it's going to be out several weeks. So that'll cook him for Boston. But you saw him limping. You saw him when he hurt his knee. I didn't realize it would be that serious.
You know what? I was actually shocked that he continued because when you saw him on the ground grimacing in pain,
Yeah.
and then you looked at some of the coaches, the way they were looking at Kelly, like, how dare you? How dare you? I'm like, okay, I don't think he's coming back. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy gets up, and like you said, he limps and he sits down, and you're looking at his mobility. It looked now, he was saying that he felt like he hurt his team by coming back. But to me, he still looked good. You know what I mean? And then after the game, they felt like it was a MCL and that's what it was. But it's crazy, man. Sometimes I love his heart, but you wonder if he would have just sat out the game, I mean the rest of it, and got it checked out, would have been able to play on Friday? Because I don't know if he injured it further by continue to playing. You know what I mean? It's just a
Yeah.
lot of questions you have. But I tell you what, that's the type of dude. He's like a hockey player, a football player, a guy who can play through the pain and do whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's tough as all get out, man. He could be menacing, but that's where again I go to and Beast. How about the pass that he makes to Oubre, right? Like the 5 times, all of a sudden he started to get to a spot, and then that was a great feed for the and one. I mean, I can't. I'm so I was so impressed by the closing piece of it. Because early on, I don't know, like you're covering the game, you see him. Were you concerned by his body language? Because he kept pulling at his shorts. He was huffing. He looked pretty lethargic early.
Yeah, he was lackluster like a mug. Now, here's the thing about Embiid, and basically that performance. Now, he did have a great fourth quarter, right? But going up against the Knicks, he's going to have to bring it, right? The whole thing, he's going to have to bring it. But you are right. Like when I was watching it early on, I'm saying to myself, "Come on, Joel, you got to snap out of this because the nation is watching. Everybody's looking at this game, and when next you don't want to have that label as a great regular season player who's just a guy in the playoffs, right? And
Yeah.
and he looked like he was out of it. Now again, I get it. His knee is messed up. He's in a lot of pain. He couldn't get to the spots like you alluded to before I got there, but it just was a bad look for someone who's as dominant as he is. And, I don't have a dog in the race or anything like that,
Right.
but at the same time, it's one of those things for a guy of his stature. You are happy for him to be able to put together the fourth quarter that he did so he can at least quiet his critics for at least another game, but I mean, I'm here to I think he stepped up. I don't know if old Joel would have done that. I think old Joel would have been like, I'm in a lot of pain. I couldn't do it. My teammates needed to step up. But no, he took it in his hands. And you saw when he hit, yes, he had that pass, but when he hit one of those threes, you saw how he accelerated. I mean, how he
Yeah.
celebrated. That's something that you don't see from Joel a lot. And it meant a lot to him. And it meant a lot that he could win this game and get out and get some rest. So yeah, if he plays that way throughout, I think that they're going to be so far down on the Knicks that they're not going to be able to come back. But you got to give it to him, man. Like hey, you have to give it to him for the ability to come back the way that he did.
Great Keith Pompey with us covers the Sixers for the Inquirer. Great basketball guy. Big story of the day is the Sixers presented by TrueMark Financial Credit Union. See the credit union difference at TrueMark Financial today. Um, Early, Maxi. I got to tell you, I was disappointed. Bad entry passes, soft entry passes. He really struggled to kind of find his way against the zone. And I'm thinking, you know what Miami does. You knew that this was going to be. When they blitzed him, they pushed their offense way back. Like they were getting started 30 feet from the basket. And he
Mm.
11 turnovers, and he had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because after the game, not funny, but after the game, Maxie was like, we kind of knew that they were going to do that, but we were surprised that they did it from the start, like early on. Typically, they do the man to man and they come out and do it. And for Maxie, he's a great player, all star. He may even make all NBA, right? But the thing is, that's where you realize that he's a young point guard. He's really like a two guard in that
Yeah.
body. I mean, and in a point guard's body because some of his decision making, like you said, wasn't there. Like you were expecting him to use his quickness to try to penetrate and then kick it out, but instead he was just like you said, lackluster, lazy passes that led to turnovers, and then some of the shots were like four shots that were errant. You know what I mean? It looked like for a minute the moment was too big, and the thing that got me is when you look at the Sixers, as much I mean, the Miami Heat, as much as we talk about Jimmy Butler and we talk about Bam Adebayo, the one thing is we know and they know their kryptonite has always been the zone defense.
Yep.
Like, right? And so you figure that, you had a couple days off to whereas you can attack that, you can work on it and let Maxie know, like, hey, look, this is what they're going to try to do to you. And to me, it just seemed like, unfortunately, that they weren't working on it, but they were. It's just that I felt like it surprised him a little bit, and he made some mistakes early on.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be different against New York. He'll get more of a flow. The way they play, he should have more of a flow. So I don't worry about him, but I was surprised. Now, I did like what Nick Nurse did at the end, and he left Tobias on the bench because, once again, Tobias, man, didn't show up. Missed bunnies, rebounds.
Yeah.
Like, I got to tell you, I mean, we've seen that before time and time again in the playoffs, and I was glad that he went Oubre over Tobias.
Yeah, that was a tough one because, when you saw in the beginning of the game, I think Tobias hit a shot, an air ball, like his first shot of the game was an air ball three, I believe it was, right? And then after that, he hit the next two. So he was like 2 for 3 in the first quarter. And you're saying, okay, he's settling down a little bit. Now, that second quarter was hard to watch. I mean, he was 1 for 5. That's when he missed like 3 bunnies in a row,
Yep.
right? And then he only took one shot in the third quarter. He made that. And then in the fourth quarter is when he messed up and he missed that shot. And you're sitting there and you're like, okay, Tobias, right now we know what you can do. The moment is starting to look too big for you. Then you look around and Nico Batum is outplaying you. And, you say, well, maybe Nick, what is Nick going to do? Is Nick going to keep him in there to keep him confident and stuff like that, or don't upset him? Or is he going to pull the switch and say, we got to win? And that's what he did. As shortly after Tobias missed that shot, he was done, right? He was out of the game. Now, the thing is, Nick Nurse said all the right things. Like afterwards, he said, oh, Tobias played well. He was gassed. He was this and that. But deep down inside, it was like he's not trying to lose his player, but Nick Nurse was trying to win the game. And I feel like that lineup that they closed out the game with was the best lineup because, Tobias only took 2 shots in the second half. And the one in a big moment in the game, he missed it badly. And he was making turnovers. So he had to go. Now, again, he did have 10 rebounds. He did have 4 assists. But, Tobias has to shoot better than 4 for 10.
I mean, especially the looks. They had 3 straight possessions. They had really good looks. Buddy Hield missed the 3, but Tobias had the third look, and he didn't even hit the rim. It's like, dude. Yeah. I mean, come on, man. You can't have that. Like, listen, we all love. He's a nice guy and all. All right, I'm done. Like, please sit him down.
Really?
Like, and Nick has to say that, right? But he was smart. You have to close out. And by the way, with Batum's defense, right? He was on Jimmy, and then when Hero started to cook, he locked down Hero.
Oh, no doubt. And and that's the thing. Like Nico, I'm gonna tell you this, cuz so the game was on Wednesday. At practice on Tuesday, like Nico's a really nice guy. Like he's talking about friends, talking about his kids. He's always FaceTiming his kids. And when he comes over, he says, "What's up, Keith?" In his accent, right? Well, when he walked over on Tuesday, he just gave me a fist pump, but he had like a stoic look on his face. And I'm like, yo. So then afterwards, he gets done. And he's like, everybody else is saying this crazy stuff like, oh, it's just another game, this and that. And he's like, nah, we got to win. It's a must win. And then afterwards, I say to him, I say, yo, man, like, what's up? Like, I know it's like a big game, but dude, you acting different. And he's like, Keith, it's the playoffs. It's the playoffs. And I'm like, wow. And then you looked at it and you saw how the moment was big for a lot of dudes in that first half. And you saw how he came out and was balling, right? And he with the grit, like you said, the defense. I mean, it was crazy. We're talking about the threes that he hit, but probably the biggest play, one of the biggest plays was 2 defensive plays he made when he blocked my man's shot, right? And then at the end of the game, he was smart enough to know that I'm gonna let this dude hit this three right before the buzzer and we win the game. I'm not even going to contest it so he can try to draw a foul and get to the
Yes.
line. You know what I mean? He was smart, but I'm
Yes.
telling you, like, we always talked about this thing that the Sixers were missing was toughness and grit and this and that. And you get this guy who basically people saying, well, he wasn't playing for the Clippers, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. And he brought it yesterday. I mean, he brought it yesterday. And now you know why Joel loves him, why
Yep.
everybody loves him. And he's the most selfless dude on the team. Because think about this, and I don't want to ear beat you, but think about this in today's era. You're not playing today, but if we need you to do an inbounds pass, you're going to suit up just for a second to do an inbounds pass. Guys are looking at their stats saying, what? I'm not doing that. Like, this is a contract year. Like, I'm not doing that. Nico does it. And the reason why he stepped up yesterday is because nobody else would at that time. And he helped his team out. I like the guy a lot, man. He's a great addition to the team, a great dude, and he's tougher than I ever imagined.
I love that story. That is a great story, Keith. Him when he did just a fist bump, man. You laid it out beautifully and
He,
about who he is.
Oh man, he's a real deal, dude. I mean, that's why Joel loves him. Like, it's
Yeah.
funny now. I know why. See, this is crazy. So he sits in the locker room. His locker is to the right of Joel's, and what they do is you go in there, you give them a good chime. They sitting there just yapping in French, just going to town. And when they go on the road, his locker is to the right of Joel's, right? So it's like you get it. They're both got these French ties. They know this
Yeah.
and his father's from the Cameroon, so they get that. But at the same time, dude, now I know why Joel holds him in high regard because of the stuff he did yesterday.
That's fantastic. This portion of the program brought to you by Rite Aid. Visit your local Rite Aid today. Stock up on allergy relief, all kinds of stuff. You can schedule a vaccine appointment, riteaid.com. Keith, between Batum and the chicken, because you were there, the chicken, bricking for chicken, Chick-fil-A saved the game, man, because after Caleb Martin missed both, the energy in the building just rose, man. It was the chicken game.
Yeah, it was it was crazy. And look, you know what? Here's the thing. I don't have a dog, and suppose I have
Right.
a dog in a race, but I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna go to a Chick-fil-A and get my my food. I'm gonna do that. Yeah, the people. Yeah, but that was right. The crowd got into it because at first, think about it. The crowd went from booing to cheering because everybody got uh, a free 5 chicken nuggets from Chick-fil-A, right? But yeah, that was crazy, man. That was crazy. Yeah,
Because then they
I'm
go on a run. Because it was funny. The crowd in a second, right? Like they freak out. And then it helps start the run. They had somebody hit a three, and then it was
mhm.
Batum hit the three, and then they got a run out. And then all of a sudden, like once you turn an 11-point game to a 4 or 5-point game, it's a different vibe. And that's what happened during that moment.
Yep. And look, just so I can prove to you, that's my bricking for chicken right here. I'm gonna go get it.
Yes. Yes. I
but,
love it, man. Make sure you
but
do it by
but
10
yeah,
o'clock, all right?
yeah,
Make
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Yeah, I don't want any. But yeah, you're right. You're right. That's what it was. I mean, the crowd got into it. But yeah, you're right. They did go on a run, and it was like, whoa, whoa. And it was funny because you could look at the bench, the other bench, and you saw like you could see people on their bench, and a couple guys were like, because they could. The thing about the Philly crowd is what people tell me on opposing teams is like you want to get on the Sixers early because when you get on the Sixers early, the crowd is so knowledgeable and they expect so much that they will come down hard on the team. But if something happens that gives the crowd, excites them a little bit, then you got to get that fire out right quick because then it's going to run. And that's what happened. He missed them. And then all of a sudden, things start coming a little bit together for the Sixers. and they went on a major run, and that helped them. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and teams say that all the time, dude. They like when you come to Philly more so than anywhere else, you got to get on the team early because the crowd will turn on them. Will
That's
turn on,
great.
but you got to keep them. You got to keep them down.
That's great stuff. Dude, great. I mean, tremendous. Tremendous insights from Batum to the game itself to that piece of it with the crowd. Keith, man, you are a must read, a must follow. You just kill it, man. Thanks for always being there, man. We love you, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me on, my man.
Thank you, my brother. We'll talk soon. Sixers Knicks series. That is the great Keith Pompey.